Hi everyone, good morning. My name is Yusuf Turabi and I have just graduated from the IIT Dharwad. I'm also currently the founding team member at Careerbolt. And today we are going to discuss one of the most important topics and which is also one of the hottest topics in the industry right now. When the students, specifically in the third and fourth years, when they're highly confused that which is the field right to them, because there is a lot of intersection between product management and software roles, but then there are differences also that we should respect. But the problem with the students is a lot of them get confused that which is the field that suits to them. So today we have invited with us an esteemed group of panelists who have this industry experience of like more than 20 plus years, and they are going to share their expertise today so that you can take the insights from them and figure out what is the best field for you and how the other things like, for example, we know that there is AI and other stuff that is going on, so how this is going to influence these two career trajectories. So today we have the co-founders of Careerbolt, Mr. Vinod sir and Vivin sir, who is the CEO and CTO of the company. And also we have invited today with us from US, joining us Darshan sir, who has been working as an iOS engineer at Porsche. So with this, I would not like to take much time and let's quickly get into the discussion today. I hope that you get a lot to learn from this session. Thank you so much.
Yusuf, is the session being recorded?
Yes, sir. It's recorded as well as streamed on YouTube as well. So there are
Awesome.
people sitting in YouTube. Yeah.
Awesome, great.
Cool.
So, everyone, I'm going to be the moderator for today's conversation. My name is Vinod, and I work as a founder of Careerbolt, and I also work as a adjunct faculty at IIT Palakkad. So that's me. I worked in the Bay Area for some time before I came here. I have two panelists with me today. So Vibin and Darshan. So I'll begin with Darshan. Darshan, I'm going to give a bio. You can please add to your bio after I finish, okay? So that if
Sure,
there's something
yeah.
missed out. So he did his undergrad degree in India, worked for 5 years in computer science as a software engineer, went to the US, did his master's. And since doing his master's, he has worked in companies like Porsche, he has worked for Hilton, and he's just and Capgemini, so a bunch of companies. And I think most recent work is in Porsche. He spent a lot of time working in software. So I think he's going to be a great addition for today's conversation. Dashi, any quick comments before we move on to Vibin?
I think you were spot on, Vinod. It pretty much covered both education as well as my professional experience. I think nothing much to add there.
Awesome.
Cool.
So Vibin too worked in product for quite some time. So he began as a material science engineer, but then switched after his master's in the US. He was working in a mix of product engineering, and he was kind of trying to get into entrepreneurship, dabbled in that space, then did a master's and did an MBA from the US. And since then, he has been working in a bunch of companies like AWS and Salesforce, where his last job was a product director. So over to you, Vibin. Any initial thoughts before we move on to the next space?
Spot on again, Vinod. Nothing more to add.
Okay, so this is meant to be a discussion where there are students joining us from from YouTube, listening to this conversation, and also people who have sent us some questions beforehand. So what I'm going to do into the format for today's conversation is we have somebody with like at least a decade of work experience in software, another person with more than a decade of experience in product. So it's like, let's do a comparison in terms of what is a product role versus a software role. So let me begin with a very basic question and then jump in terms of questions from students. So I think it's basically going to be a Q&A session in terms of just trying to answer student queries. First question is, again, I'll probably begin with Vibin and then go to Darshan. But can you tell me two things about, like Vibin for you, right? Tell me two things about product which you absolutely love and two things which you wish was better. So, and likewise to you, Darshan, two things about software we absolutely love, maybe two things which you wish were different.
So, good question, and actually a curveball there. There are a lot of things to love and hate about product. Top things that comes to mind is with the product you have actually kind of like power to change the face of the company, and it really means that it can be that you design and launch a product that can bring lots of revenues for a company. It can be something that can actually increase the market share of a company. So that's I think one of the biggest roles and biggest responsibilities as a product owner. Secondly is that you end up creating something. So product is a lot about building things. It's about being a maker, but it comes with its risk. You actually end up telling people what to make rather than actually making it, which by the way happens to be the con too, which is one of the things I felt a little crazy in a product role is you're telling other people what to do when you're actually not actually involved in the building process. So that's definitely one of the cons. But again, it's one of the pros, that is it's as close to the creation process as can be, leaving the software engineers themselves, right? The second con is that product can quickly get into a lot of things, um, especially where roles are not defined. So we get dumped with work that nobody else wants to do. You get end of the day, you are the owner of a product. The entire product success failure is held to you. So that means that there are a lot of things that nobody wants to do. There's a lot of dirty work that also gets rubbed onto the product side of the world. It's something that nobody wants to talk about, but it's a reality of living in the product world.
Thanks, Vibin. Darshan, over to you.
That's good. So a couple of things that I love about software is it can really bring value to people. Like when you develop an application, like for example, I remember developing an application for especially people with special needs back in Atlanta during a hackathon, and that application um, help them get to know the people who actually care for those people, as they the people with special needs move along, like take a ride through a transport, and as they go along, that application basically helps the people who care for them keep track of where the transport is going, and so on. And also, while onboarding the transport, it also helps the people with special needs regarding some voice messages. And also, as they move along through their journey, it announces the various stops that come across. That way, it adds value to the people who are traveling, and also people who are caring. And another big advantage of software is simplifying a lot of things and automating things. Meaning, let's say, for example, if I want to perform a set of tasks, I don't have to do it manually. I can write a script really quick and set things in motion. One quick example that I can give is that whenever I submit my code to a main branch that I keep track of, it automatically triggers a bunch of steps where a build is generated, some of the tests that are run, make sure all the tests pass, and I'll also upload the build to a place where people like stakeholders and app store users download that app and use it. So in such a way, the software can simplify a lot of things and reduce a lot of manual effort. Some of the cons that I can think of is each of the softwares come with their own limitations. Like there are a wide variety of programming languages available across various platforms, and at times I have felt the urge of coding with one language, like wherever I want to program. Like for example, there was a product that came out from Apple called Vision Pro, which needs people to know iOS as their, like, the Swift programming language in the iOS ecosystem for them to get started as a basic need. If it were to be somewhat web based, I think there would have been a lot of people who could jump on developing applications for it. And I think that's a serious limitation for such products. And the second con would be that software, like I was mentioning during my first point earlier, that it brings value to people, but on the other hand, it also um, um, can go into the hands of wrong people, and also can be used to conduct hacks and misuse the software to exploit people. That way, software also can act as a bad thing in the society, giving a lot of power in the hands of the people.
Awesome. Thank you, Darshan, for the remarks about software. So let's jump into a couple of questions, okay? Then we can probably come back to even other thoughts you want to share with the audience here. So one of the questions I have is from Ishan. Ishant from Dr. MGR Educational and Research Institute. Ishant, if you're there in the call, do you want to type your question? Or if you're around online, do you want to unmute yourself and ask the question? If not, I'll ask the question for you. I'll give you probably a couple of seconds. If not, I'll ask the question. Okay, I'm going to ask a question on behalf of Ishant. So his question is, what's the major difference in terms of working in a corporate role versus working as a freelancer or as a remote software engineer? What's happened in the last couple of years is that there are a lot of heavily funded startups who are recruiting people from other locations, especially other countries like India, in terms of working in remote locations. And the question is, what happens to promotions and hikes in all these two separate paths? Are they both equally risky? Is one more riskier than the other? So what do you guys recommend? So over to you, any one of you to answer, or both if required.
Let me go ahead for this question before Ruben answers. I can answer from both the perspectives. I have worked as a contractor for some time, and then as well as a full-time employee for the same employer. Um, um, so what happens with the contractor role is that you miss out on a lot of perks and benefits that you get, and also things like promotions as well, because you're basically working like an individual contributor, working on a specific role, contributing to a client who has a certain set of responsibilities that are given to you, and you meet those. And once you're done, once the duration of the project is done, you'll be um, let go from the project. But whereas if you're a full-time employee, you enjoy all of those benefits that come, that you can enjoy as an actual employee of the company, like insurances and the holidays that you get throughout the year, like the PTOs, and then extra benefits. Like, for example, I'm enjoying um, um, a car that is given to all the Porsche employees that will also help people test their applications in it. So as a contractor, you wouldn't be eligible for such perks. Um, another difference is that as a contractor, it is easy to let go of you. At times of distress, like for example COVID, when it's working at Hilton, Hilton being a company which mainly depends on hospitality, depends on people who are traveling. At times of COVID, they're badly hit, and it's easy to let people go. Luckily, I was not part of the team, but part of the team that were let go. But people should be really lucky to be on the team that during those times. Whereas full-time employees, they have a opportunity to even stay with the company and go on furlough, come back and join again after 3 months or 6 months. Especially for people who are on visas in various parts of the world, it really matters that they stay on employment and not cause any issues with their visas, which is a good thing, being a full-time employee. Yeah, those two couple of things that come to my mind when I think about full-time versus contracting opportunities.
Darshan, two quick
actually,
questions.
I want to add on. Can I add on, Vinod, or do you want to continue first? So when I was working with HPE, we had a bunch of people who were doing the testing, and the testing was actually, other than a very few people who were actually on site and who were employees, most of them were actually outsourced employees based out of Ukraine. And it was an interesting combination then, because one, you would see that the pay scales were very different. One, because they were from a different location, the pays were different versus the employees who were here. And you would see that there was a big rush for people to somehow come and work for the actual parent company here in US, right? So you would see that a few of them, it's almost like a perk or a benefit or even a promotion, you could think of it. Like, few of the contractors would actually get an opportunity to come over visit. That's a perk. And few of them would actually end up being offered a role to work with HPE. So that was like a major turn of events for them. So a lot of these contractors are actually vying to get that option and the opportunity. So in terms of opportunity, I think being physically in a location, uh, being a full-time employee offers opens up a path for many other things, right? It could be a path for like getting a green card, a path for getting citizenship, and moving over to the different location that you might even dream of, right? So those were important for a certain set of people. Of course, they weren't important for others who would prefer to be in their hometown, home country, live with the kind of like environment and surrounding that is more like suitable for them because they've been grown up over there. So those could be factors too. But this is some things I did see that there was actually a very intense competition between those employees who were in Ukraine to actually come over and be part of the team that is over here in HP. So exact details, I guess I would need to ask them about what were the differences in pay scale and stuff, but it must have been sizable. The benefits must have been sizable to everything that Darshan just added for people to actually look for that opportunity to come and work in US.
So Darshan, can I ask you two follow-up questions? So one is that does H-1B visa support people to work in remote roles? And does it impact, for example, the green card application process? Any idea about that?
Muted, Darshan.
Darshan, you're
Muted,
muted.
muted.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, H1B supports people working on remote roles, especially after COVID. A lot of rules have been bent. People like the companies allow people to apply their H1B from the location where they are. Like H1B is specific to a location that the employer has an office. But during COVID, there were situations where a lot of my friends had to apply H1 and mention their current location as the work location while they were applying for H1 or extensions. That way, H1 is in support of people working remotely, and as long as the company that you're in supports you throughout the green card process, I think it should not, like, working remotely should not affect your green card path.
Is it the same for freelancing, Darshan? Is it same as remote for freelancing, or is it different? Any thoughts?
Meaning, can you elaborate on that
I mean, is
question?
freelancing roles considered exactly like remote roles when it comes to software engineering roles? Especially
Freelancing.
the way it's treated by visa offices?
Yes, even during freelancing, I think, especially if you're on a visa, you have to be actually part of some company. Like when I was contracting, I was part of a company that sponsored my visa as well as applied green card for me. And I was also working from a remote location. I think a really good case for answering these couple of questions, because I meet all of those. I check all of those boxes. Yeah, I think in my case, I did not find it any difficult to work remotely or have any impact on my green card path.
And just to add, I guess when you speak remotely here, you specifically mean being in US, but in a remote location from the office, right?
Yeah, that's
I just
right.
want to call that out because I think some might interpret this as being remote outside the country in India and then trying to, like, for example, India or anywhere else, right? And then trying to work in US.
Yeah, nice point. Yeah,
I guess there's a very big difference because these visas are for employers to hire talent within US. So
exactly.
the question of being outside the country doesn't exist. I think the COVID relaxation, like you mentioned, is because people were forced to stay at home, in US, versus the office was somewhere else in some city where traditionally you would need to be 25 kilometers or something, 25 miles. Everything is in US is in miles. I guess that was a condition that you had to be within 25 miles of that location of work. But I think those were relaxed to be a little bit more like universal. I think that's the larger point. But it doesn't extend to a freelancer. Again, the concept doesn't extend to someone like a Fiverr worker, right? Here, it is a freelancer is someone who's on who has multiple clients, but still is working for a parent contracting company based out of US and is located in US. I think that's a finer distinction I just want to draw. These rules do not apply for fiber employees working outside the country.
Yeah, good call out, Ruben. Because a visa concept would come in only when an employee stays on the land of the country that is sponsoring, like providing the visa for them. So yeah, in cases of
Awesome, Darshan.
freelancing, yeah.
Actually, let's move on, right? In the interest of time, let's move on to the next question. So, next question is, how do you, this question from Piyali Datta, and she's a student of IIT Mandi. And her question is, how do you learn the subjects of management and technology together? What is the process to learn? And also, is there any benefits from learning both of these together? So, what's your thoughts from both a product perspective and from an engineering perspective?
Maybe I should take a stab at it first. Okay, because firstly, management concepts you would quickly come to realize is not really something that is gained through an MBA. It is through large amount of work experience. So having work experience dealing management basic. Okay, let me step back again. Management normally means management of people. Everything in the end of the day comes to that. On top of it, there are other things like resources, time, and services that you might manage. But it all comes to management of people till the time comes where AI takes over the world, right? But these cons can definitely be learned only through experience, because we have to know how people interact with each other, and there's a tremendous amount of value that you gain by actually interacting with people, trying to get work done out of people, and like trying to again find a common grounds across different teams or different organizations. Okay, so that's the first part of it. People normally misconstrue this as, oh, I need an MBA to actually learn management concepts. That's absolutely not true. You can be a great manager through your work experience. You can be a terribly bad, poor manager after an MBA, just because you don't have that experiences and the learning pathway associated with it. Now, to the specific question, how do I learn these things? It's a twofold process, right? Again, experiential learning is important, but it also needs to come with a lot of thought. It's good to actually go reflect on your daily experiences working with different people. Also, read books or ideas from subject matter experts, right? When they talk about certain ideas and thoughts, or how do you manage work, how do you manage resources, I think these ideas have to be absorbed and be experimented with your part of the work. So to a person who's asking, how do I learn this? When you learn concepts, when you learn, for example, if you learn about supply chain concepts, if you talk about what's a bottleneck, it is not something that needs to be always with respect to only an operational process, right? A bottleneck can be seen today in everything. Like even if you're in software development, you would see that if you have a team that has a limited set of people who can actually do critical tasks, then you are in a bottleneck. Or if you are in a place where you don't have that technology to actually do it, it's a technology bottleneck. Okay, but point is, these concepts can actually be applied across different domains. It can be applied in whether in HR or whether in product. You can actually come to these same concepts. The key thing is to keep reading through different books, maybe journals. Keep updated of what's happening around the world. Keep reading different books on different subjects on what's the different ways to manage resources, or how do you manage people, and then keep applying them on a daily basis, not just with your work, but also on how you view and experience the world. I think that's the key things to make a manager. To get a job, you might have to actually go ahead and prove with some degrees, which is it could be superficially like an MBA, or it could be some things like getting a certain set of online certificates or courses to prove that you have that necessary background. But the same kind of thing translates across maybe all subjects. It doesn't have to be necessarily management. But that's my takeaway for you. Imbibe what you learn with the things that you do on a daily basis. That's a surefire way to actually become a good manager or a good in any field that you choose.
Great point, Sudhir. In my perspective, for this particular question, whether how to keep learning the subjects of management and tech together, I would suggest, in my perspective, to keep them separate. Meaning, you expert in one of them. You can be management and be tech savvy, or be extremely good in tech and have a little bit of management skills. Like for example, you can be a manager who can know a little bit of Python, and also probably other data analysis tools, and you can still be a little bit tech savvy, and also manage a larger team that works on data operations or data mining, so on and so forth. On the other hand, you can be a really good person with the tech stuff. You can code multiple languages. You're good at architecting applications. You're good at suggesting good paths and bad paths for the team, and bring about a lot of new concepts into the team over time. So you're good at all the technical stuff, but you don't need to manage a team. You don't need to entirely manage a team. You just need to know how to lead that team, and that way you can be the other side of the coin. Um, if you were to travel on both the boards, management and tech, like learning both the subjects of management and tech together, I think at some point you'll have to make that um, bifurcation and choose particular path. I think knowing both of them is good, but you'll have to travel in one path. Like consider one of them as a primary skill, I would say.
Hey, thanks, both of you. So let me move on to one more question. So this is from Rudraksh. So Rudraksh wants to ask a question on the impact of AI. So Rudraksh, can you ask a question? Rudraksh, if you're around. Okay, I'll ask for Rudraksh. So his question is, he's a student of IIT Dharwad, just graduating, and with the advent of AI, what roles in computer science and product management are in danger? Which field is a safer option to choose considering the next 10 to 15 years? Any of you?
You want to go ahead, Vipin?
Okay, guys, we are all screwed. AI is taking over the world. Just kidding. No, it's not the case, right? Like, if you guys have ever used uh, uh, ChatGPT, which is the new word on the block, right? New kid on the block who's changing everything, right? I personally feel it's a great tool. It's a tool for learning and development. The tools have already existed. So prior to Google search, right? People had to go ahead read books uh, to actually go ahead learn a subject. But today you could actually, I mean, a couple of years back, you could actually search, maybe go to certain places where developers actually share answers, right? I don't want to name the particular site, but you could actually find answers to different challenges. People used to do that, right? When you have a bug, when you have a challenge, you actually go search it, and then you land up on that particular page, and then you look at like a lot of responses from people, and then you pretty much like try out those different things that people have said. There have been engineers who have pretty much copied code from that place to actually try and develop code, right? Develop the block of text. It comes with its cost, right? If you don't know the stuff that you're developing, you're pretty much screwed. So my take is, chat gpt is much better. All these AI technologies, it's a much cooler way to learn. It accelerates your process of learning and trying to like know the different things. Sometimes you will see that documentation, again, I don't want to name the company, the documentation is horrible, right? It's a very popular cloud company that allows you to host a lot of things, but if you're trying to learn things from documentation, you would go half crazy, right? So documentation is necessary. You would need to look at it, but again, tools like ChatGPT would actually help you learn and master a topic really fast. It's another way of learning or watching. Like instead of watching YouTube videos, you might want to like also augment your learning through ChatGPT. That said, there is a real threat someday where these things are super sentient, right? I've been surprised by some of the answers where the answers, the system knew that I was going to ask something else. I was trying to like work around by asking some long-winded questions, but the system pretty much knew what I was going to ask and said, you know what, screw with you. Here's your answer, right? So there's some smartness in here which I don't know what's happening over there, but at some point of time, these systems are going to be sentient. That's one day in which we would go to the Black Mirror kind of world, right? Where we are all gonna go and like pedal bicycles for like thumbs up buttons, or those gonna be the job for us, because machines are gonna take over all that kind of rest of the jobs. But that world is not there yet today. It's maybe at least a couple of decades away. For now, we will have jobs, and I don't think any roles in software ever is going to be closed, because you have ChatGPT out there that you can actually write code in, because you don't want pieces of code hacked together and put together. You want code that people understand, can maintain, and keep developing, right? That's my take on it.
we've been painted a little bit of Matrix movie here, but I think I kind of agree on that. Um, my take would be to look at it from like a positive perspective. Advent of AI would, as long as you know how to use the tools that are available, you should be good. Like nobody can replace you on as long as you know how to use the tools. The person who does not know how to use the tools, they are going to get replaced for sure. Because someone who knows the tools will be able to do the job real quick. Um, and as far as the tools themselves, they will not be able to replace the people as a whole, because um, you can only ask certain questions that AI can answer in bits and pieces, not the entire application. Like it cannot write an end-to-end application that basically builds an YouTube application with all the data encryptions and storage, replications, hashing. It cannot build everything at a time. As long as um, it does things in bits and pieces, people who know those tools will be able to survive and learn how to use the tools and be a better programmer. The second part of the question, like which field is safer option to considering the next 10 to 15 years? That's very hard to say, because the tech world is changing so quick. Like the technologies are being outdated probably every couple of years. As you know, Apple has an iOS that is coming out, that has a new version every year. Also, a few minor and patches here and there, almost every other week. So technology is changing very rapidly. It's really hard to predict what's going to be there and what not in the next 5 years itself. And with the AI, we'll have to wait and see if it's just a bubble, like air bubble, like what we saw with TikTok. We don't know if it is really going to be something as big as Google, like a search engine product that it can become. But it has the potential, and only time will answer. Whether it's going to stay like impactful as it is right now.
So Darshan, I have a follow-up question for you from Rudraksh. Okay, so this is linked to the same topic, which is what skills will the software developer need to sustain in this generation where ChatGPT can also write the code just like a software developer?
Like I was mentioning earlier, I think it's good to learn some of the tools that are out there, like for example ChatGPT, or by this time there are like tons of applications for each of the little tasks that we do. There are a lot of plugins for the browsers as well, and it's good to know some of them by using them. The other thing I would say is to basically go through some of the massive open online courses available, like how to build such tools, how a ChatGPT algorithm works. It's good to know such algorithms. That way, it's easier to write proper commands and prompts for those particular tools. That way, you can get best out of them. I think recently, I think Khan Academy brought out a curriculum for learning how to build a prompt. I think that would be useful. As far as skills in terms of learning languages, I haven't come across much resources in terms of building an algorithm like ChatGPT or a LLM. I think that would be a really large task, and I think learning some of the tools that are available through the open online courses, that would be helpful.
Darshan, I think the question is also around like what skills should, like as a, if in today's world as a software engineer, right?
Mhm.
What skills should I keep learning? The question is, should I, I can get a bunch of code from ChatGPT. So as a software
Mhm.
engineer, is there something new that I need to think of today? Like, oh, I need to know maybe logical thinking, maybe
Mhm.
data structures and algorithms suddenly becomes a lot more important than before. What's your take on those?
Yeah, I think um, certainly we can like I was mentioning before, we can get bits and pieces of snippets from ChatGPT. Like we could ask it to write a basic screen that you want to develop in an iOS application in an MVC pattern, but you would need to know how to use such snippets in the ecosystem of the iOS. I think um, if you are able to know how to develop an application in an ecosystem that that can scale and that can be used by people, that can be developed by multiple people in a cohesive team, I think it would be helpful in terms of utilizing such tools and contributing overall.
Okay, now I'm gonna turn it to Yusuf. I think he has maybe 2 questions for us. So Yusuf, over to you.
Sure, sir. Thanks for giving this opportunity. So my first question is that, for example, what I've heard is that to really become a product manager or to basically, I would say, get promoted in this line, is MBA really needed? And also, are tech skills really needed? So where is the intersection and what is the most optimized way to actually climb up the ladder? That's my question.
What is the second question again, Yusuf? uh,
So basically, there is an intersection of like management skills as well as technical skills, right, sir?
ah,
So is coding really needed, or tech skills are really needed, and is MBA also really needed
ah,
to climb
ah.
up the ladder?
Okay, so I think let me try, and it's a huge question. Let me try and give like a quick key points associated with it. One of the things is that product management roles are like really minimal. There's probably one product manager required for like a bunch of teams. So companies tend to like hire a limited set of product managers compared to say other roles, right? Like whether it's a program manager or whether it is or a software engineer, right? These are going to be even a software development manager. There's one per team, but PMs are going to be very limited. So that ends up limiting the pool of people and making it a lot more selective to hire. So why did I bring that up? Because given that the pool is limited, then the entry barriers can be arbitrarily high, right? Today, I think it's largely become a requirement that if you're trying to break into it, somewhere at a little bit of a senior role, you would need to have a MBA background associated with it. So if you're trying to break into like a senior PM, and if you have like no association with the company, like you're just trying to break into it for the first time, then MBA is probably required for you to get into it. Okay, but if you already have association with the company, for example, you have been working at the company as a engineer, you've been working as a, let's say, project manager, the pathway into a product manager is lateral. That is, you can make that separately by proposing that to your team managers, to your directors, making a case for how you fit in with that role, understanding the role and making it into it. So there is a lot of lateral movement into product management that always happens. um, a very good hire for product manager always is a good engineer who also happens to have a lot of uh, um, let's say extroverted and people outreach skills, right? So that's something that's a very good fit for a slightly not an engineer who is great in engineering work, but more into talking to people, getting work done. That kind of engineer actually makes a great fit for also being a PM. Okay. So MBA is strictly not necessary. MBA is necessary if you're trying to break fresh into the product role, having no software experience within you and no affiliation with the company that you are in. Okay, the correct way would be to that you have some sort of like understanding of technology and make a lateral move into a product. That would be the easiest and maybe the right way to go ahead and build in products. Now to the second question, which was related to do are technical skills really required? Product managers have to understand really what the requirement is from the customers, right? Have an idea of where the technology landscape is changing, and then build products for that, right? So it could be something as simple as build in a feature, but it could be as complex as maybe build in entire product like Chrome, like, right? So the key thing is ability to again understand technology needs. So you must have that ability to converse technical terms. So if I was ever going to speak to Darshan, I need to give him the kind of language that he works and deals with on a daily basis, right? He doesn't deal with things like I have a 20% growth in customer acquisition, or I don't have I have a like an increase of trying to increase the retention, customer retention. Those are not the language that an engineer would deal with. Engineer deals with like increasing the kind of like the process for actually going through a login process, or going through things like the database, the kind of things that needed for a database. Those are the kind of languages. So you should be able to translate that, and for that you need some way where you can understand technology and communicate with. So product manager's depth of technology requirement is only at that level where he can understand and translate technical requirements onto the teams, and also communicate it at a very high level to the leadership teams. Um, so that's my take on it on the product side.
So, sir, I have a follow-up question regarding this. So, like, I had two, three questions more, but I think you answered every of them. So, the first question is that how the interview process looks like. For example, if I'm initially applying for PM role, so basically, are there case studies or there are fit interviews, and how many rounds are there, and what kind of preparatory materials available for the beginners, if there are any free resources as such?
So
Thank you,
again,
sir.
it's a huge question, but let's take it very quickly. Interviews are going to be largely behavioral and case. Okay, some may be a little bit more case heavy, like Google, right? It's largely about like, hey, if you're going to build something from scratch up, how do we go ahead and do it? Versus Amazon is largely behavioral, which is going to be like, tell me a time when you face some challenge and how did you overcome it. Idea being that your past behavior is a very good indicator of how you behave in the future, right? So it's going to be a mix of both. On a very rare set of occasions, you would actually do something like a system design, which is at a, like black boxing, like you would have black box connecting to black box connecting to black box, right, to get out a product. And that is normally the style that Google tends to use, which is hey, let's build some product. How would you go ahead building the product? The focus again is purely on seeing how good you are able to translate customer requirements and able to build measurables, and ultimately talk about what a product could look like, right? um, there is there has never been interviews that I have seen or heard from friends where you will actually do coding, right? That's not the requirement. In fact, if someone asks you to do that, then you should probably not work with the company, because the fundamental rule of a product is we are not going to tell engineers on how they should build the system. We are going to tell them what and the whys to do stuff. So the moment you're going to talk about coding, you're getting into how, and engineers are going to be pissed with you. You're going to have a very very bad team that is going to hate you for life with if you ever get into that route. So don't be in such a company where they ask you to write code. But that I think should answer bunch of things. But it's a big question, Yusuf. How do you actually go prepare for it? What are the kinds? And every company is very different. How you actually go interview for them is very different dependent on the company, and there's immense amount of preparation required. The kind of learning you need to do is also very vast. You should be able to put things together, right? Like ideally you should be able to see things from multi lenses. That is, you should be able to look at it from the perspective of economics. You should be able to look at it from the perspective of marketing. You should be able to look at it from perspective of supply chain and logistics. You should be able to look at it from a perspective of software engineering and design, right? You should also be able to think about what this means as a business impact. So there's a lot of lenses to wear, and how do you prepare for it is actually a very extensive question. But the some gist of it is that you don't need much technology other than the fact that you can understand technology and speak the language.
Great, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing the insights.
Okay, so I'm going to jump in with Darshan. Is there anything else you want to add, or shall I move to the next question?
I think we've been covered pretty much everything. I think he's the best one to answer in terms of the
Okay.
management.
So I have one question again from Rudraksh in terms of I am not originally from a CS background, but however, I have a job in computer science. How important is it to do a master's in computer science down the line? And second part of it is, how much will it matter if I stay in India versus going abroad? So maybe Darshan, you can take this question.
That fits right in my alley because I was in the same boat. I did my undergrad in instrumentation, and um, um, one thing I want to highlight is that I always had a liking for computer science. I was coding small programs while I was in high school, and then college. I had a computer science course in the first semester, but out of my own interest, I did take up I did go to the CS department. I asked them to conduct a course. I did learn some Java there, and then that was outside my curriculum. Um, so that clearly indicates that I really had a liking for computer science. I joined a computer science company right after college. Worked there for about 4 years, um, and though originally I did not have a computer science background, logical thinking is what was necessary for me to keep going in the computer science field. Um, I would suggest to pursue masters somewhere down the line, whether be it in India or US, wherever you can get an in-depth experience in terms of learning the nitty-gritties of the fundamentals of computer science. That would be really nice. For me, I did my master's in computer science from Colorado State University, and the kind of projects that I did, like I would just want to mention one of them is implementing the Google search engine itself, like a miniature version of it. Um, I took up a 35 gigs size data, shrunk it into some 5 gigs, indexed it, and then wrote some program to deployed the algorithm across 80 different nodes, and searched the data in like less than 5 seconds or so, with that limited amount of resources. That basically implements the master slave architecture that the Google search engine is based on. Similarly, I had an opportunity to implement something along the lines of AWS and so on. If you are able to get a curriculum that lets you do such things, get to the nitty-gritties of the language, learn about various concepts that expands your horizon, I think it's really worth doing masters, because it'll help you understand get a holistic overview of the entire system that you're working for. Not only the little program that you're writing, the little feature that you're developing, but across the various different layers of the application as to what is happening end to end. You learn only when you have a really good background of computer science. And I think my master's in computer science really helped me understand, get a holistic picture of how an application should be built, and what are the interfaces that are there between various systems like backend and the front end, the middle layers, the design systems, the user experiences, user flows, and so on. And then the second part of the question is, will it matter if I stay in India or abroad? I think that entirely depends on the university that you will do in India, and as well in abroad. There are various universities in abroad that do not focus on developing really good projects. You can get the masters done very quickly, which is not worth doing. I think it really depends on the university. It does not depend on the place at all.
Vipin, do you want to add anything, or shall I move to the next question?
No, I think Darshan covered everything. Yeah, thanks, Darshan. Even it's good inputs for me too.
Sure.
So I have a question from Ishant. He's from Dr. MGR Education and Research Institute. So his question is how to network with the right people for our career, because in the past he has tried it and it's more like a cold connection. So this question is, when you do cold networking, especially say LinkedIn, what's the right way to connect as an absolute stranger?
I'll pick that up first. So there are some no-nos first, right? When you connect, like don't think of this connection and networking as something new, right? This is what you're doing on a daily basis. It's LinkedIn and others are just tools for doing that on a daily basis. Like what you do on a daily basis is just being carried over to the digital world, right? So firstly, for example, when you meet someone, you just don't like go and like tap them and just look somewhere else, right? So like you try to make a conversation. So for example, in LinkedIn, I get like requests, just like connect requests with nothing in it. It's like blind connection requests. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like it's exactly an analogy, right? You just tap someone and just look somewhere else, right? What's the purpose? Why did you come? Why did you come to connect with me? So those are some of the questions. And secondly, once you connect with someone, right, it is not, don't think of it like superficial, that you just don't go around in a street, for example, trying to like talk to everyone, right? uh, it's the same thing. You're trying to build some sort of rapport or a connection. A connection is a connection, right? The word means trying to build some sort of like personal bridges. There is some reason why you wanted to reach out to a person. It's cold because end of the day you don't see a value in that connection that you have, right? If there's personally things that connect, like tie you both together, like similar ideas, similarity in directions that you both want to do, some sort of understanding of who the other person is, and you want to like further that understanding, those are very good reasons to actually connect. Connections are not necessarily always for a job, right? Connections are end of the day you're trying to build friends, or trying to find people with similar thought processes, right? So think of it in a little bit more larger perspective. Don't think it at absolutely like I want a job, right? I need to connect with this guy for a job. Therefore, I'll just ping him for a job, and then that's where I stop with it. So that by the way is a much bigger picture of how to look at the world. But there are realities too, right? Like today you want a job, you want to actually go ahead and see if you can actually go get some referrals for a job. I think in those cases where the goals are very clear, like at least be upfront and honest on what you're trying to do, which is you're connecting, talking about like, hey, I am a student, I'm looking for like placements, I would like to learn a little bit more from you, and I'm end of the day looking for a referral, right? Be honest, be upfront, because like I said, every employee has the ability to refer, and they would do so openly if they know what is there on this table, right? It's not there for like, oh, we I want to connect and like build a relationship with you, and then like or whatever, in the sense connect and learn something from you, and then like one step later you say, hey, give me a referral, right? It just doesn't like add up to things. So be consistent, be have integrity in what you're doing. If you're looking for a job, definitely raise it out with people, like, hey, I need a referral, I am from this particular university. Always try to connect with some person who also has similar background from you, right? Someone from a similar set of undergrad, grad, or whatever those backgrounds are, same from same cities, same culture, right? Those things all tie. There's a reason that you're trying to see in finding the right set of people, and then once you have that, you can at least express the reason why you're trying to do that. And once that, hopefully that reason is is completed, like a referral for a job, hopefully that person and you have a lot more things in common to share, where you can actually continue the dialogue for a longer time. Build connections. Think of them as building your network of people. Few is a higher quality is much better than a large quantity. That's my take on it.
Okay. I would like to add a couple of points to what Vibin said. First being, try to establish the connection well before you want to ask something from them. Like, for example, if you want to have a connection with some of the seniors in your field that you're working in, make that connection like well before, and when the time is right, go ahead and ask them for the favor that you need. And also, having such a bond over a period of time will give the person who you're talking to confidence that you're a genuine, the favor that they're going to do is genuine, and will be able to help you through what you need. And also, when you're asking for favor, I think it's really good to showcase what you have to offer. Like for example, if you're asking for a job offer, show them something that you already worked on, something that is not part of your daily work. Like for example, if you have participated in hackathons, or out of your own interest you have built some applications, show them such things. that really indicates that you care for that job, and you have a passion for what you're asking for, and also having a long-term relationship is better. I think the other point that I want to make here is the place of making relationships also matters. Like for example, if you go on a LinkedIn and then sending a cold email or a message to someone, um, then highly likely that the person might not check LinkedIn often. If you go to places like where the hackathons are happening, or some of the company events are happening, there you would get some references that are really valuable, because you get to meet them face to face, you get to build something really cool with them, and then over time you can establish a relationship and then ask for a favor, be it with a job or participating in like any other thing that they want to that the person is working on. I would like to quote one example between what Vibin and I share here. Like we were just friends in Atlanta at some point, and then I was just talking to him about a hackathon that I attended over a call. And then he was pumped up by the idea, and then he had an idea too, and then he expressed interest to work on that. So there was a mutual connection happening there, because there was an interest that was common between us. And it is to, I mean, we did not start the connection based on a favor that we mutually needed. It was basically started as friends, and later converted into something that we can actually that we can work together. So yeah, that making such connections based on common interests, like we've been pointed out, will be really valuable, and goes a long way.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. Darshan, I remember 2016. I think we were coming for some internship work. So
Yeah, for my first full-time job.
first job, yeah. So we
Sangha.
actually we were in the same place, and we just connected over like just talking, and then we became good friends. So actually, that is the thing. Friendship lasts. These overlap of like, let's say, economic interests,
Mm.
they don't last.
Right.
So yeah, good points, Darshan. Yeah, cheers.
Awesome.
Okay, folks, I really come to the end of the questions asked to us in advance of this session. So what I want to do right now is just throw it open to anybody here to ask questions. Or Yusuf, if you can check if there's anybody on YouTube asking questions, please relate that to us. If not, we'll probably wind down the session.
Yes, sir. I can see that there is no question on the YouTube.
Hey, Sugandhan, good to see you. So do you have any questions for us?
No, I'm good.
Hi, sir. Nice to meet you all. It was a fantastic session. I think all my doubts were answered. So, yeah, thank you.
So Darshan, Sugandhan is one of the students we kind of work with from IIT Palakkad. He has an offer to go and work in Japan, and he's just very interesting student of computer science.
Nice. Awesome. Good luck, Sugandhan.
Thank you, sir. Nice meeting you.
Likewise.
Anybody else? Rudraksh, Yusuf, any last questions, or shall we wind down?
I just want to circle back to the question of some of the skills that are required for a software developer to sustain this generation of ChatGPT. I was kind of answering from the perspective of how to use the tools, but in terms of developing such software, I think some of the skills that are needed are like some data science tools like R, Python, Tableau, and so on. Also, NLP will really come in handy. Natural language processing based algorithms. I think I think at this point in time, since there's no set curriculum to learn such skills, I think anything around data and processing data would really be helpful. And of course, having a good software engineering background also is a must-have.
So Darshan, how about I ask a question from my side? Since nobody else is asking any questions, and then wind down this entire discussion. Okay. So,
Sure.
what would you look for when you're looking at people from non-computer science backgrounds? If you're looking at them for software interviews,
Mhm.
so what are some of the technical skills they should absolutely have, even if they are from, say, mechanical or civil engineering and so on? What are some of the people skills or business skills you would expect from them in terms of being a serious contender for some of the jobs you have in your company? Not just your company, but
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
general as a software engineer.
Yeah. First, again, I think most of us know that logical thinking is the first thing that is needed. Languages come and go. Logical thinking is something that is common to all the languages. Syntax, just I think with all the languages, just the syntax changes, and the core part is the is how you build that application or a feature, like how you architect that. Having a good overview of the end-to-end application as to how, like having a good insights into how each of the layers in an application should interact. Like for example, a back-end application and a front-end application should always depend on interfaces, not concrete logics. That way, anything changes on either sides does not affect each other. So having such knowledge on the higher level is really good. And then having being good at one of the languages, at least being an expert in, like for example, Java or a Swift or JavaScript is really helpful too, because you can express the computer science concepts in a better way if you know at least one of the languages. Like for example, if it comes to polymorphism or inheritance, you should know how to express that in terms of whatever language that you're being quizzed on, because many of the languages out there are object oriented, and you could relate to the concepts that you have already learned. And similarly, it's good to know the procedural based languages as well, although they're being outdated and not being used in some of the advanced applications. But I think I would suggest, from my own experience, knowing Java is really helpful. These days, Python is really making strides, and knowing Python really helps. Like at least one of the versions, they talk about 2.3 and 3.0 Python versions, but at least knowing one of them is really helpful. In terms of soft skills, I would suggest to have the always have that urge for learning continuously throughout your career. Have the interest to take up any task that comes your way. No, not everybody knows everything. There's always a learning curve that is associated in a new job that you take up. Always have that interest in terms of learning new things, and then being part of the team. In a team, it's always, especially in a corporate environment, it's always organized. You'll always be given a certain set of tasks, and you're not expected to do everything, know everything. There are people who are present in the team with specific skills, who do a certain job. So always be open to learning new technologies, which will give you an advantage over your peers who are like constrained to learn or work in a certain only in a certain environment. Being open will give you more advantage. So give the confidence to that new person who's joining the team, and help them perform better. Unblocking the blockers of the team members is really an important skill that'll make you the leader of the team, apart from doing your own work.
Sir, in the flow of the conversation, I have received another question regarding non-CSE background itself. So one of the participants has asked that how much relevant are core subjects that are taught generally in the CSE degree, which are in the beginners when you are a beginner, as when compared to when you are in a senior position.
I think fundamental concepts that are taught in the universities are really important. Along with that, I would suggest doing a assignment or a project associated to that theory concept. like I can recollect my experience during my master's here. Every concept that I learned was associated to a project or an assignment that I was doing. Like I was immediately implementing what I was learning. If you ask any of those concepts, I can go in depth about talking on them, because I have worked on building an application using that concept. If it is theoretical, you would tend to learn it just for the sake of the exam and forget it. It's better to learn it for purposes of a longer term, in terms of using it somewhere, or probably applying it somewhere.
Concept is actually a little bit general too, not just for software. I remember looking at the MBA courses, since I had a startup at that point of time. I could do things that in accounting, for example, which is very abstract by itself. When you go out and, for example, try and balance a balance sheet, right? When you're trying to fill up for tax purposes, when you're trying to, like, you need to submit certain forms which talk about your assets and resources, your cash flows. When you use some of the concepts that you learned in your business school and then try to fill that up, you quickly imbibe those concepts yourself too. So yeah, every concept, I think I can add to that don't keep them theoretical, apply them practically, and that's maybe the best way to learn. The same with management concepts too, right? Management concepts can be very theoretical. If you start to apply them in real life, whether it is negotiations, you can negotiate for anything, right? Or whether it is it's trying to fix small issues with some of the things that you learn. I think there's a much better chance that you will have a much deeper understanding of things that you see around you.
Yusuf, any other questions? That's it, right?
Yes, sir. That was the final question.
So thank you so much, everyone, for being in this call. Again, this is one of the webinars you always organize every month to get students acquainted on different facets of working in companies, about planning their careers and so on. Darshan, thank you so much for coming over, Vibin. Again, thanks so much. So we'll be putting up this video on YouTube so that others can also watch, especially those who have not seen it. Thanks, everyone, for your time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Goodbye.
sir, for putting this together. Bye-bye.
Yes, my pleasure, sir. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rudraksh. Bye-bye.